Amber and Josh Schachter, welcome to Rebels with a Root Cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. We're so excited to be here.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. So introduce yourself to the audience. I'd love to know who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you do.
Well, I'm Dr. Joshua Schacter. I'm a board-certified orthopedic surgeon. I had been employed for about 15 years in a small town in Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas. Then even though I was the head of the department and doing I did about 15,000 surgeries in my career, I started to get really, really burned out. And so we were really looking for a solution, and our solution was to go into integrative orthopedics. So we left a traditional practice. We opened an integrative orthopedic practice in Wichita Falls, Texas. And it's been quite a journey for us.
Yeah. And Wichita Falls, Texas is about 2 hours from Dallas, correct?
Yeah. So we're in the north central part of Texas. Yeah. Yes. So my background before I rescued Josh from the abuse of the traditional medical system was I spent the last 15 years in hospitality, and I've done everything from a big convention center, fashion show design, workflow of people and how to move them in those big areas down to high-end white tablecloth fine dining. And so I really had spent a lot of time creating experiences for people to feel seen and held and enjoy their experience with me and in my environments. And so that's where my background comes in. Josh and I have been married since I was 18 and he was 20. So we have got lots of time and road, under our belts between us. But we came to integrative orthopedics and started the Pinnacle method 3 years ago.
Nice.
So I know that Josh had talked about, working 15 years as an employed doctor. I mean, how did you feel about this? Like, why did I create this business for you?
That's the real question is, I'm sure things were good, right? In the system, right?
Well, you made lots of money.
Sure. Like, hey, listen, I was caught as well, right? The golden handcuffs, like you get to rise inside the organization, right? You're, become respected in the community, like all those things, right? And then, but something went wrong. What was that? What's that rebel story?
Well, as I did more and more surgeries through my career, I started to really question, one, do we need to be doing all these procedures? There are measures that I was starting to become aware of, regenerative therapy and other measures that maybe could prevent us from needing to do a fair number of the
So where were you learning all this from, right? Because you're in a small town. Right. Where were you learning regenerative medicine?
Well, it's something that I started to get interested in is sort of an augment to my sports medicine surgeries. I did a massive number of like ACL reconstructions and shoulder scopes for rotator cuff repair. And I started to get exposed to the use of PRP and stem cell to sort of help accelerate healing in those cases. And as I was sort of diving into that, I got more and more interested in how can we use these to maybe prevent doing some surgeries.
Yeah.
This is not a popular sentiment, by the way, in hospital employed practice.
Because it's a moneymaker, right?
That's right.
Let's just talk about
the thing most people don't understand is that you, as a surgeon, you're incentivized to do more surgery.
Sure.
Not more necessary surgery, not give people the longest, healthiest life possible, just to do the surgeries. And so when you are going to hospital administration and you are being told you need to do 10% more surgeries than last year. You need to see patients in a quicker amount of time. When Josh was getting so much pushback because he's saying, hey, I would like to not operate on people with A1C so high. So I'm not going to operate on them. So then the hospital gets mad because that's cutting into the increase in surgery, right?
Yeah, they got that new building they're building there, right?
Exactly. We have a whole new imaging center. I need everybody to have 5 MRIs this year, right?
Yeah.
And so he would, for me as the business person and the entrepreneur, I saw my healer. So also something that you didn't mention, Josh is an osteopath, so he's a DO. So and there's a bit of a fundamental difference between an MD and a DO in that you go to school and train about the whole body. You're to look at the human as a whole integrated system. And so your basic training is more than that.
Yeah, so the difference between a DO and an MD is we do a lot more manipulative medicine, and then we also look more holistically at a patient from the training perspective, right? From medical school, I wasn't really able to use that in my traditional orthopedic practice. And as we were doing initiatives in the hospital, hey, especially when we look at joint replacements, how do we prevent some of the complications that are so disastrous in joint replacement, right? Infection and chronic pain and stiffness. Well, we know that these things are very closely tied to nutrition and overall metabolic status of a patient. So we started to really dig in and start some initiatives in our hospital system. I was the director of their Joint Center of Excellence for a decade. And so that our specialty was hip and knee replacement at that time.
Which, a little brag, the smallest hospital in Texas to have that. St. Josh was at elite level.
Oh, sure.
So he was an orthopedic surgeon doing more surgeries than he can handle at a hospital that had an excellent status and still having these kind of pushback.
Yeah. And so when we wanted to do something like, we weren't going to operate on somebody if they were smoking. This was a huge move, Ellen, you would imagine.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So my initiative was, so we know that nicotine products and smoking in particular causes an increased risk to patients who have joint replacement. So we're not
even nicotine. We're not talking about.
It causes
infection.
It causes contraction of the small blood vessels, so it can cause us problems. When I brought that to the hospital administration as an initiative, they were like, "Wait, what? We're going to stop doing surgery on people who are smoking?" That there was a lot of pushback there, and so there were a lot of instances where I was trying to improve the health of our patients overall, to improve my outcomes. And the system, not just my hospital system, but the system as a whole was resistant. So there's a debate in orthopedic surgery. Do we need to do surgery on people who smoke or not? Like, come on, is this a debate, really?
Yeah.
And those sorts of tensions are what really drove me into burnout so deeply. I was doing almost 1,000 cases a year. I did 15,000 plus surgeries in my career.
And I want you to think about how much that is.
15,000 surgeries in your career. And how long was your career for in the system?
It was, in the system, I worked for in the traditional system, I worked as an attending orthopedic surgeon for 15 years.
All right. So you're basically doing 1,000 a year.
Super busy, 30 plus cases a week.
Break that down.
That is way above the national average. And then think of call. And think of how much... now you're having to see the patients after the surgery.
Yeah.
Well, and with reimbursement cuts, every year our hospital administration would come to us and raise the bar. So when you are an employed doctor, and don't think that, I think that your audience should really understand, the vast majority of surgeons and proceduralists now are employed. And this is not a results driven market anymore. It is a production driven market. You're paid based on the amount of procedures you do as a proceduralist, as an orthopedic surgeon. And it gains the hospital system quite a lot of money. And so we were always incentivized to do more procedures. And they were always sort of moving the target. Well, this year you need to do 10% more. This year you need to do 10% more.
It almost sounds like a sales role.
It's exactly right.
It is.
I got a new quota this year. I got 10% more I got to perform in the same amount of time, right?
I remember my administrator once told me, my CEO of my hospital, I was the chairman of our physician group at the time. We were talking about salary, and she's like, we're going to move your goal up 10%. I said, so you're going to pay us less? She goes, no. What it means is you're just going to have to work harder for what you make. Totally bizarre. But the problem is, this really incentivizes your proceduralist to do procedures, right? Your orthopedic surgeon, when you come and see them, is not looking at you as a whole organism.
Right.
They're not looking to give you more longevity and help you heal your joint without that procedure. They're only looking to do that procedure.
Yeah.
And that's a real shame.
Yeah. It's tied to the whole insurance game as well.
Yeah.
Right. Let's look at it, because it's, they're driven to do more. Right? Because they got that beautiful building. And by the way, I understand your hospital is probably the most spectacular looking hospital.
That's a beautiful hospital.
Right? Beautiful.
We live in a town, Wichita Falls, Texas. It has 102,000 people in North Texas. And I love our town. It's a nice town. But we can't get a pothole in the street fixed. And our hospital, which is a public hospital system, which receives federal and state monies to take care of the indigent, has $1 billion
in reserves.
$1 billion in reserve.
$1 billion. Wow. So we can't fund our schools.
Well,
our public hospital is taking $1 billion out of the local
economy.
And I think that Wichita Falls is not the only community that suffers from this.
No.
We happen to be unlucky in that and that the organization there is one of the most expensive in the country.
Yeah.
And if you look at how expensive traditional medical care is, and you're looking at public health, Wichita Falls' public health is some of the worst in Texas. And that's some of the worst in the nation. Wow. So there's a real disconnect between the cost of care, the quality of care, and what it's doing for the community.
Was there a competing hospital in town?
No.
There was a competing small surgical hospital that was a full service hospital that was a physician owned hospital.
Yeah.
And that hospital sort of struggled along in competition for 25 years. And then this year, United Regional bought them.
Yeah.
So
drove them into the ground.
Yeah. Well, outcompeted them for sure.
Yeah.
Well, they have $1 billion in reserves. How is a small locally owned hospital that's putting patients first going to keep up with that monster who has federal subsidies, state subsidies, doesn't pay any taxes?
Yeah.
So and they're not playing in the same game here.
No, and it's rigged. We all know it's rigged. And the most concerning thing is that, these doctors, were driven to say, you got to produce more, with the same amount of time or less time, meaning you got to work more efficient, harder, right? Be able to do more with less. And the challenge is that that's not doing justice to the patient, right? To the individual, and where your whole journey has taken you to is like, is that joint replacement really needed? Right? Because that's what's fueling the industry. Like, you look at this cabal of the insurance and the hospitals all working together to spin this thing up, of course, with the companies as well that are producing these joint replacements. And it's a heavy thing, right? You've seen it. Like, there are quotas inside the system. And that was, I can imagine the frustration that you were feeling in that system. Now, what were some of the things that you were saying and doing that started to tip the scale, so to speak, right, with the system?
So things that I was saying and doing as far as make me want to exit.
This isn't right. This isn't right. Like
just having any sort of resistance to really optimizing a patient's health around a procedure. In traditional medicine, there's an understanding that whole health is important. But you can only spend, if a primary care doctor can only spend 5 to 10 minutes with a patient, how deeply into their health are they digging? So that was, I think, a big driver for me is I'm seeing 50 patients a day. My PA is seeing 30 patients a day. We're doing 30 surgeries a week. How am I present and focused with each person that I want to heal? And that lack of connection really drove me to disenchantment with my own specialty, which I love. And then understanding that the traditional system puts us in this box. And there are so many treatments that our system here in the United States either doesn't believe in or doesn't ascribe to, or it's experimental that can help our patients.
It's really good for animals.
That we're completely not using in a traditional orthopedic or any type of practice.
Well, Josh, don't you think that this is about, like you were saying, this is an insurance issue?
Yeah.
Insurance dictates care.
Yeah.
If insurance doesn't pay for it, most physicians, hospitals, and practices aren't going to offer it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been trained as Americans that if insurance doesn't pay for it, it must not be legitimate medicine.
Right.
And now I see this sea change coming. And this is part of the beautiful work that you do, Tim, is giving a platform for the few doctors and the few people who have been able to break through that major wall of insurance to offer medical care outside of the box, to give the patient what they deserve. They get to choose what's right for them instead of somebody who's counting beans in an office somewhere to tell you what medicines are appropriate for you. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It turns out we can't do this based on a 5-minute office visit.
Yeah.
We can't do this on a superficial look at someone's health. And we can't do this based on the approval of somebody who's probably not qualified to give you approval, right? So the insurance company has these employees who are not at your educational level, don't have your exposure, don't know that person, and they're dictating whether or not they can receive a treatment, if it's even approved at all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And that system is really constraining. Look, we all went into medicine to be healers, right? We felt a close connection with other human beings and we want to help them feel better. this system puts us in such a box that we're in a constant state of frustration and a constant state of no doctor in the traditional system that I've ever spoken to loves working with an insurance company.
Have you met one, Tim?
No, I have not met one yet. It's not. I'm still looking for one. So
yeah,
and the only ones that really love is the ones that are completely gaming the system.
Yeah,
those are the ones that love them.
And the ones that are,
right.
they're not patient forward.
I guess you could love it if you're a fraudster, but when you want to really give good care and spend time with people, you have to exit.
Yeah.
You have to give patients an alternative to what they're able to get in their traditional system from their traditional.
So let's talk about that, because this is such, and I 100% totally agree with you that there are doctors that became doctors to become healers, right? And what they didn't realize is that they got caught in basically the vertical system, right? It's like there's one thing. We know Big Pharma controls a lot of things inside medical schools. Like medical schools are basically teaching you one thing, right? So they're programming you to do one thing, right? Depending upon your specialty, this is what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, right? And then the hospital basically backs that up and says, this is what you need to do, how you need to do it. You have 10% more you got to do. Like, we got this new imaging center, right? We have things. We have to build this, this fund, right? We have to have these things in reserve. And the challenge is that they're so programmed. They think this is such a huge divide. How do I cross this river, right? From being in the system to doing exactly what you did and how you set this up, understanding that there is a passion inside of you. It's like, this isn't right. I got to get out. And there's a lot of doctors in the system who are feeling that right now. So what is the advice? Like, give us your journey. Is how you set this up, Amber and Josh, to get this thing put together.
So on my end, I had a partner who was a wonderful doctor who had turned into a carpenter. That's all he did was surgeries. He wasn't helping people. He didn't have control of who was coming to him, what really he was doing. He became a factory worker replacing joints who worked in a hospital. Burnt out, angry, and frustrated. Am I right on this?
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've never heard this from carpenter, but that's a great analogy.
He
like,
would say that when he would come home.
Because you're basically sawing bones, and
you make widgets all day long. That's what you do.
Put people back together again.
But he felt trapped in this.
Yeah.
He knew this was not his path. He was miserable, completely burned out, frankly, very depressed. His anxiety was through the roof, although he was functioning at an elite level.
Yeah.
At home, there was nothing left of the person who I had married.
How many doctors did you know in the system that were facing this same issue, this burnout, and just?
I don't honestly know any doctors in the system who aren't facing it. Because if there's two types of doctors, in my opinion, in that system, in that sort of hamster wheel scenario, where I truly believe there are doctors who are burned out and there are doctors who are going to be burned out.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time and frustration. And if you're the type of person who wants to be an employee and wants to just go and make widgets, then maybe the traditional system is good for you. It's not good for anybody else, but maybe just for that type of doctor. That's not the type of doctor that I wanted to be. And so it was absolutely essential.
But we meet doctors all the time because they feel, like you're saying, the golden handcuffs. So you've got to understand, in order to be an orthopedic surgeon, it is a very hard residency and fellowship track to get to. So you have been fighting for 20 years to get to this position. And so now you're a decade into something that's put you $500,000 in debt. You didn't have your first real job until you were 30. And now you're a decade in and you're miserable. So you feel like it's your fault.
Yeah.
You feel broken, not the system. And you're told that you are broken.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they feel trapped. They feel hopeless because where are you going to get another job? What am I going to do? They're not trained in business.
Yeah.
They're actually, I think intentionally, and this is, I don't know, maybe between you and I, they're in medical school, they're told not to think about money or business.
Why? Because they want you to go in the system, right?
Exactly.
Like, you don't have to worry about it. You can take it.
And it's just crazy for a physician. This is your livelihood. And what other place do you spend all of this money for training, become an elite expert, top of your field, and then told that you're not supposed to make money? Like, is it supposed to be a hobby? How is that possible? And so I would say a lot of doctors, like you're saying, Tim, feel so trapped that they can't even vocalize it because there's a lot of shame involved. You've been sold one thing, wanted to be a physician, wanted to help people and be well respected. And now you're treated like a factory worker by a medical administrator who's dictating how you're going to treat your patients and what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So for me and us and what I saw in my partner, we were lucky enough that in my medical history, I'd been doctor to doctor, and I knew that the medical system was broken. So I had my own personal view on it. And then watching my husband get broken by the system, I said this, for me, I was like, screw the golden handcuffs. I don't need a golden parachute. You have got to quit this or there's not going to be anything left of you. And so we decided, I said, let's talk about what would you love?
What would you love? In the Mary Morrissey way.
Yes.
Right?
What would you love? How would you treat patients if you could really treat somebody? And he said, I want to spend an hour with patients.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
I do.
You want to talk to them about their health. You want to talk to them about what they want. Because nobody wants a knee replacement surgery. They want to get down and pick up their grandkids.
Yeah.
So for us, the journey was really one from, what am I going to do next? Right? Like and so many doctors feel like I'm a one-trick pony.
Yes.
I only have this to offer, especially if you spent a lot of time in your specialty and if you're highly trained in it like a fellow. And so when there was a lot of resistance to me internally making these changes, luckily, I have a partner and a mission that helped me make these changes in myself internally. But for us, what we did was we started a private practice. And we quickly learned that the traditional insurance game was not going to work.
And you did this while you were still working at the hospital, correct?
Yeah, so we started in 2022, we started planning our practice and we opened January of 2023.
Okay.
And you left the hospital on that date.
Yeah, I left the hospital.
Got it.
I left the hospital at the end of January 2022.
Because remember, the hospital is not going to allow an employed physician to open their own
do their own thing, right?
Oh, and it was the whole thing. They tried to
kick us out of town.
Yeah, they tried to enforce a no-compete clause. And at that time, no-compete clauses still were not enforced. So there's a whole lot of friction that your employed practice will create. So there's that friction that the system puts on you. There's the friction that you put on yourself. And those things combine to make it feel insurmountable, but it's really quite simple. I mean, you know your why, not necessarily your what, but like not necessarily your how. You know what you want to do, you know why you want to do it.
Yep.
And you don't need to know how you're actually going to do it. There's lots of resources. You and JJ and Health Business Growth Collective, there are so many wonderful masterminds that can give you absolutely a step-by-step roadmap of how to make this happen. That is something that we discovered after some trial and error. So I would urge docs who are thinking about doing this to, one, go and get it done, make it happen, and two, seek some resources. And this is a great place to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that if you're putting the patient first and real science first, and not just our Western idea, but Ayurvedic, Chinese medicine, movement, somatic, understanding how much our mind has a role in how our body heals. If you make that the center, the business part will follow.
Yeah.
The basic business principles are the same everywhere, really, right? I mean, I know from going to restaurants into our practice, that part was, for me, easy. I know it was a big learning curve for you, but you stayed in your genius in medicine and created a system that really changed the way that you perceive. So how many surgeries do you do now versus the 1,000 a year that you used to do?
I haven't done surgery in a year. My focus is
really... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I stopped. Part of and orthopedic surgeons out there, you don't have to stop.
How are you making money, Josh? How are you two making money? How is
So we stopped doing surgery. My goal was to exit a system that I saw was broken.
Yeah.
And in my particular market, it's really difficult to do any surgery at any center there without taking traditional insurance.
Yeah.
So that did sort of drive us to not want to do surgery. And I also saw such a great benefit to doing regenerative orthopedics, right? So we focus on holistic health, and integrative orthopedics is a wonderful combination of integrative medicine and musculoskeletal care. So we use hormones and gut health and diagnostics, lab testing, and lifestyle change, movement, strengthening, combined with regenerative medicine like stem cell and PRP to heal people's joint pain. And our goal is really to prevent surgeries, particularly joint replacement surgeries, because these can be so damaging. So that's how we make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you doing this in a community that it's not a wealthy community, right? It's like, let's be honest, right? It's a community that is a very blue collar,
smaller town, North Texas, very conservative. It's not like we're in California and there's a bunch of people interested in alternative medicine, right?
Right. Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that being an excellent trusted surgeon, his patients know that in spending that time with them, that he cares. And also we have treated, I guess we're on like 500 patients now in what we call the Pinnacle method. So we have proven that we can heal your joint pain without steroids, without narcotics, and without surgery. And so we have patients who are years after the treatment doing better than they've ever done, because the system, like you were saying, Josh, it really looks at if we can get why do you have that inflammation in your knee? Where is that pain coming from? If it's not an injury from a tear, if this is arthritis or inflammation that's causing the pain, which is very painful and real and is going to continue to get worse, what do we do about it? And of course, he treats the joint itself, but he creates an environment in the joint that becomes healthier and turns your body's own natural ability to heal itself back on. And so that method, that proprietary method that Josh has developed over the last 3 years, he doesn't have to do surgery, because guess what? His patients get better without it.
There's always going to be a percent of people who are going to benefit from an orthopedic surgery. But if you look at the surgeries that we do now, for a lot of different reasons, a good percent of them, maybe even 30 and 40%, are not necessary, either not necessary at all or not necessary now. As of 2018, about 33 to 36% of knee replacements in particular were done unnecessarily, which means the joint wasn't ready for surgery. And this leads to younger and younger people getting surgery, which leads to more and more downstream problems with health, need for additional surgeries or revisions. Risks of complications are actually higher in young patients, especially with joint replacement. So that's a really concerning trend in the United States, that your orthopedic surgeon has a hammer and everything looks like a nail, right? That's not the way we do. I saw a sign on the way here it was for a healthcare system, and it said, "Your treatment is our priority." And I thought to myself, well, shouldn't that be your health is our priority? Your wellness is our priority? But I think it speaks to the entire idea of the traditional system is, guess what? Your procedure really is their priority.
Yeah, your treatment is great for our bottom line.
Yeah. And so for us, your treatment is not our priority.
Right.
Your health and wellness, your overall well-being, your ability to play with your grandkids and to lose that weight and to not suffer from type 2 diabetes.
Right.
That's our priority.
Right. And also you keep them out of the airport scanners as well, right? They can walk through this.
And
they don't have to go through this.
freely worry about metal detectors, none of that stuff.
Well, I mean,
none of that stuff.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see the change, not only in you, Josh, but in our patients.
Yeah.
How just people who couldn't walk without walkers now I'll run into them at the grocery store, because we are in a small town. They're showing me how they can squat.
Oh,
They're
wow.
picking up their legs. And I was like, oh, Betty, honey, we're at the grocery store.
Wow. That must be like, boom, like that heart just like,
It's
beautiful.
Feels so good, I imagine.
Being a doctor in a small town, I think, is a classic way to do it. There's nowhere to hide. You get to see your patients everywhere.
The good and the bad, right? It's like, that thing didn't work that you put in me.
Right.
Doctor.
And luckily, I haven't had I had a very low complication rate. It's not like I stopped doing surgery because I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
I was tremendously
You're very good at it.
Yeah. But this is a better way to do it, and this is a better way to do medicine.
Yeah. So how is the system reacting to what you're doing? I imagine there's not a whole lot of you in the community that's doing what you're doing that's kind of broken free. I don't know if there's functional medicine docs in your community, and they're starting to see your model and starting to duplicate it. Like, what has this created in your community?
Well, first, there's a lot of resistance, both in ourselves for leaving the traditional system. We also have this idea that our colleagues are going to, are going to think that we're crazy or quacks, and that we're doing stuff that's, not approved. And to some extent, that's true. I did suffer that from my colleagues, referring doctors who'd send people to me, it sent people to me for years, or telling their patients, don't go see him, he doesn't take insurance. Like, it's not a don't go see him, he's a quack, or not like, or a witch doctor.
He's going to take your money.
Don't go see him, he doesn't take insurance. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, let's just analyze that statement here again. Like, because he doesn't take insurance. Like that dictates, like, the brain is like, I can't, like you said, Amber, earlier, it's like, if it doesn't take insurance, it's not real medicine, right?
That's right. So we've fooled ourselves and our patients into thinking that their health and their well-being and their wellness is worth a $20 copay.
Yeah.
And when you ask people, like, what's the value of your health? It's infinite, right? Like, it's at least more than a Cybertruck, which is a $100,000 truck that's not actually bulletproof, right? So, but what I mean is like, people are willing and in most cases able to invest in their health, especially if it's something reasonable that creates real transformation in them. And so the whole he doesn't take insurance thing was really, that's just super ridiculous. There is a reaction from the traditional system when you leave it. And but it is not one, it's totally one that can be overcome with a mission. Our patients come to us outside of referrals. They come to us of their own volition, right? And so when we have interactions we consistently hear every day how much we change people's lives and how they've never experienced a doctor's office like ours, and how they're so grateful that somebody does this for them. So to the last part of your question, are other providers in Wichita Falls starting to offer? Since we started our practice, we've had people start to, a lot of my colleagues are now offering very basic regenerative medicine,
like PRP.
Like PRP.
Yeah, it seems to be one trick pony in the systems, right? It's like PRP, it's like the hammer and the nail, right? It's like PRP, like it's.
And people wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You use PRP, but you don't optimize the body to use its ability to heal to the maximum effect, and nothing works. So they're doing it. They're coming along. We are seeing more kind of sort of functional providers out there, which I think is encouraging.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a source of competition. I see it as a wonderful resource for the community.
Yeah, it's a +1 to everything that's going on. It's starting to lighten the community that there is a different way of improving your health, right? And it starts with lifestyle, right? That's the most important part.
The most important, and something that doctors aren't even educated about on medical school.
Yeah.
When I went to medical school, I had a cardiologist tell me that statins should be in the water in a lecture.
Oh, what? There's enough stuff in the water that we shouldn't have been drinking.
Stuff in the water.
We don't need a statin in the water.
And then the second thing that I had was a lecture from some consultant that doctors had an obligation to take care of patients and not worry about business, right? Like we shouldn't worry about how much it costs. We should be be able to give this service, and it's our calling. It turns out that guy worked for an insurance company. So it's like,
well, I think that's something that we as people who care about our health and not just providers of medical care, it's important for us I have this conversation quite often with some of our colleagues to look at the true cost. So we think with insurance that my insurance is going to cover it, but in the true, if you were to look at dollars and cents on what you're going to spend on copay, on downtime, on whatever your max amount, that's covered, and all of the loopholes, and then these bills that you're going to get, surprise bills at the end of every procedure.
From every doctor
ones from every different one.
Yep.
And what's going to be denied, and how much time and energy are you going to have to, and our time does cost something.
Sure.
If we look at that versus you come into our office, we're going to give you the actual price, which is reasonable. You are going to buy, you are going to know exactly what you're getting. You are going to have an outcome that you're choosing on the care that you have chosen. And yes, it costs money, but in the long run, in dollars and cents, we actually are much less expensive than going to get the knee replacement.
Yeah.
then missing how much work, then losing the strength in your calf, and we're not even talking about downstream problems from that. And so for me being the business person, the dollars and cents of it, we are really being sold a bunch of nonsense when we think that it's cheaper to use your insurance. It isn't. It isn't cheaper.
But the cost of carrying insurance is wickedly expensive.
Exactly.
Right? It keeps going up.
And getting more.
And getting more, 20, 30%. Like
every year, 20% higher, 20% higher. And at some point, we're getting diminishing returns.
Right. Yeah, the cost is going up. The reimbursements are going down. Right? The spread is killing a lot of families. Like, and I'm not meaning killing them. It is
it's financially devastating.
Financially, it is devastating. Right?
Yes.
It's a they're caught in a vacuum. Basically, they don't know how to get out.
And a great way is that the more and more doctors that can exit the system, it gives these people an opportunity for them to exit insurance as well.
Right.
You don't have to, we could get a catastrophic care policy if you're really interested in that, and then go find a primary care provider that you can be fee for service or join their practice. Or like us, join our practice and come and we can give you that musculoskeletal care at a reasonable rate, and you're going to get the outcome that you deserve.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, it's, insurance has taken away competition. Let's just be honest, right? And having doctors like yourself and businesses like yours that are coming to communities and providing excellent care, and they are truly taking care of the patient, right? It should make these other doctors in the system say, you know what? I can do that too. And let me learn from them. And let me, let's not call it competition, but let's figure out how we can start to uplift these communities.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's the most important thing. We have to remember that we're taking care of individuals. We're taking care of mothers and fathers and grandparents and children. And the only thing we should be doing is really focusing on them.
Yes.
Right? And making sure they're getting the best care and that they're being seen, like they're truly being seen, and not the 5 to 7 minutes that they're being seen. Right? Then they're just being that here's your medication. Here's your joint replacement. It's becoming a point where these things are not actually getting to the root cause. They're just kicking the can down the road. They're making them more sick.
Exactly.
Right? And they're making them have more problems, like you made mention, Josh, that, when these kids are doing these things earlier, it's causing problems way down the line. And that is not good.
Over 20% of our children now have chronic disease diagnoses. That's a staggering amount of children, and it's probably actually higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important here for physicians and practices who are interested in going and taking this path to understand that your impact is so much greater than just the patient in front of you. I have a wonderful patient, Steve's buddy, and he came to us with knee arthritis, and this was in 23 when we just sort of started our program. So the wonderful thing is we've been able to watch this whole course. It's really exciting. So we treated his knees, but he also joined our metabolic program. So we did our whole Pinnacle method on him. We helped him lose 100 pounds and we did it gradually. So it's about 18 months. Every time he comes in, he's so grateful. He comes in, he's feeling better. He's fishing, he's riding his horse. He's spending more time with his wife. He's able to climb the bleachers and watch his grandkids play soccer. And at his last visit, we're sitting down and I'm talking to him and he's like, I just got to tell you, I'm so grateful. And he broke down, he was crying. And he's like, when I was first talking to you about this program, I felt like it was so expensive. And I went home and I talked to my daughters and they said, Daddy, this is an investment in you, but not just you. We want you here to watch these children of ours grow, to be able to be engaged and intent and not distracted by your pain or your illness. And that money is well spent, right? We are impacting so much more than just the person who sits in front of us. We're impacting their whole family and by extension, their entire community. And so when we do these practices, it's tremendously important. You might think that you're only affecting that one person you get to spend an extra hour with, but really you're affecting your entire community. You're raising the bar for health overall, and it's going to bleed over into the traditional system of it, right? That's what's most important about what
that is such a great story. Thank you so much. How can the audience learn more about who you are, what you do, where you are, learn more about your method?
So if you look at Pinnacle Integrative Orthopedics.com, you'll find us. You'll also find Pinnacle on Instagram and Facebook. But Pinnacle Integrative Orthopedics is what you want to search for, or search for Dr. Schachter, Joshua Schachter.
Dr. Joshua Schachter, Instagram and Facebook.
Wonderful.
Also TikTok.
We've got some great videos. If you want to learn more about integrative orthopedics and maybe how it can help you or somebody that you really care about, go to YouTube. Dr. Schachter has some great lectures there, some wonderful opportunities to educate yourself. But really, we're out there everywhere. Come check us out. Stalk us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Josh. Amber, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.